Welcome to today's webinar. We are going to talk about the joint partnership of NovaBACKUP and Impossible Cloud and our combined managed backup solution. Let me introduce you to today's speakers, starting with Nate, or Nathan, who's our VP of Strategic Solutions at NovaBACKUP. He has nearly 30 years of experience in backup software, including working at an MSP where he managed client infrastructures. At NovaBACKUP, he is responsible for support, internal IT, and product management, and he still gets his hands dirty in talking to customers all the time. I also have with me Ryan from Impossible Cloud. He is the senior manager of product marketing here. He's originally also from California, but now lives in the beautiful city of Hamburg, Germany, where Impossible Cloud is headquartered. And I'm sure Ryan is going to tell us a lot more about that in just a minute. And he leads product marketing for Impossible Cloud's North America go-to-market. And then myself, I'm Josephine Forage. I'm the director of global marketing and the managing director for our European office at NovaBACKUP. I spent my whole career in tech. I started studying computer science and was a sales engineer, worked in partner sales. Now I'm in marketing. And we are very excited to talk with you about our technology partnership. Nate, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Glad to be
Thank you.
here.
Awesome. All right. And the three of us, we're going to talk about, first of all, who is Impossible Cloud? Who is NovaBACKUP? We're introducing ourselves real quick, but no worries. The big part of this webinar is the demo. We want to show you what the joint solution looks like, what that means for you when it comes to having a secure and reliable backup solution. But yeah, and then of course we have a Q&A at the end. But as I mentioned before, feel free to submit the questions throughout the webinar. But we will make sure that they get answered. So with that, let's start with the introduction. How about we start with Impossible Cloud? Ryan, tell us more about it.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. I'll get started. Ryan Miller, product marketing here at Impossible Cloud. Impossible Cloud is a high performance cloud platform. Josephine, you can hit the next slide for me, please. Thank you. Impossible Cloud is thrilled to partner with NovaBACKUP and be the infrastructure behind this awesome integrated solution. Impossible Cloud is originally founded in Hamburg, which is where I'm based in our headquarters, but we are expanding globally and recently added a region in the US, and we have more regions coming soon. So we specialize in object storage, and that's what we offer as part of this partnership in the integrated solution. So the company is growing, but we've been around for a couple of years so far, and yeah, that's a little bit about us. There's really three main reasons why partners would choose Impossible Cloud. So I'll just briefly go over those before we get moving. One is our infrastructure. We have state-of-the-art architecture and data centers that are certified and have top-tier security features. So we pride ourselves on having a highly available, reliable, and dependable infrastructure. Second is our pricing, which we just simply describe it as no surprises. We don't charge added fees. Everything is straightforward, and that's one of the great reasons why partners love to work with us. And lastly is our reliable performance. So it's high performance cloud storage for a reason. We benchmark our product against all the different competitors in the space, and we consistently outperform the competitive set in terms of our uptime, but also our download and upload speeds. So we're super proud to be offering our infrastructure as part of this partnership. That's really the background, but I'll kick it back to you, Josephine, and we can get more into how this all comes together with NovaBACKUP.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. All right, let me tell you about Nova Backup a little bit first, just so you know who we are as well. So Nova Backup, we have been around for a bit. From the beginning, our focus has always been backup software. So specifically, we're a developer for backup solutions, specifically for SMBs in highly regulated industries. And we work closely with managed service providers, IT resellers, and helping them deliver a managed backup service for small and medium-sized businesses in those industries. Think dentists or doctors, lawyers, that kind of stuff. And one of the parts that is always very important for us is making things as easy as possible for all of you. Because we know backup is not your full-time job, right? Like yes, it's the most important one. It's your safety net, but it's not the thing that you do all day typically. So easy for us means, first of all, that you can reach someone. You can talk to us if you want to brainstorm backup strategies. You can reach our support, which is very important. And to do that, we have a support team that is local. We have a team in the US, we have a team in Germany. And pretty much everybody who works here comes from the industry one way or another. They have, as I described earlier, right? Nate has worked at an MSP before, and so have many other colleagues. So you can talk with them about more than just backup, and they understand your IT environment as well. Easy for us also means easy pricing. We keep pricing very, very simple. We charge per connected PC and per server. And then if you use the cloud storage, we charge per gigabyte. And that's it. No hidden fees, no egress fees, no, I don't know, restore premiums or whatever else other companies are coming up with. And that's really where, talking about charges and whatnot, where this integration then comes into play. One of the things that we wanted to make sure is that you don't have to deal with two different companies, right? You don't have to go to Impossible Cloud and to us to connect the dots and have two different contracts. Everything runs through us from now on. Every like billing, invoicing, all of that, the contract comes through us and you get your cloud storage through us, which also means if you have a support question, you just come to one company. You don't have to go to two companies. I mean, you can. I'm sure Impossible Cloud would love to talk with you as well, but you don't have to if you don't want to. So, other than that, why do we think this partnership is great for MSPs? Well, obviously, Nate will show you in the demo exactly why, but I want to spoil it a little bit because part of a reliable backup strategy is having two copies of your data, right? I'm pretty sure most of you have heard of the 3-2-1 backup rule, having three copies of your data on two different mediums, one of them offsite. And nowadays, cloud is the most convenient option for that offsite storage. So you're combining quick recoverability from a local storage for example, a file got lost or a server crashed, that kind of stuff, with the reliability from the cloud and that extra security net when something goes wrong with your local copy. Think ransomware. And I don't know if you guys know this, but SMBs, as an example, are being targeted by ransomware 4 times more often than enterprises at this point. So it is a threat out there, but that's not the only thing. Also think things like fires and floods. I know Nate, you just handled like various fires over the last years, helped with various recoveries from fires over the last years. And that's where you need an offsite copy, right? Like that's where you need that extra security. And that's where you specifically need a reliable storage. Ryan just talked about it a little bit, right? A reliable storage that is there when you need it, that you can reach fast and can recover from quickly, and that is ideally used only for backups. So, and delivering this reliable and secure backup solution has been a top priority for us from day one. And in Impossible Cloud, we found a partner with the same values. They want to make sure that your data is secure, that your data can't be touched by anyone else, and that you can access it the moment you need it. And that's why we're here to talk with you about this amazing partnership. So enough slideshow, I think, right? This is about like 10 minutes is about a good enough time for slides. So Nate, I want to hand it over to you for the demo so you can show what the managed backup solution looks like, what the cool stuff is with the partnership.
Okay, sounds good. One quick note, Josephine. For some reason, I can't see the Q&A section. So if there's any questions that come in, just interject while I'm going through things. So yeah,
Will
just
do.
let me know.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. First thing I'm going to go through is the dashboard itself. So this is the dashboard that, as an MSP, managed service provider you would be accessing to and everything like that. And let me just move this little thing out of my way. There we go. And then so here is a dashboard. It's going to show you all your agents here. If you go into agents and groups, you can see more of the agents. And I have a couple customers set up and different tenants set up, all that fun stuff. The biggest thing we want to go through here is, okay, I want to onboard this new machine. This is a new machine I installed this morning. How do I get it set up? I want to back it up to cloud, and might as well back it up to some local stuff too. So how do we do this? When you're provisioned with us, we'll automatically provision. I'll call it the cloud storage gateway or storage server, as we call it, in the back end. And basically, that's credentials and everything else to, in this case, Impossible Cloud. So when I go to the cloud storage accounts, it's going to be basically completely transparent to you as a user. You don't have to do anything on the Impossible Cloud side. You just say, I want a new cloud storage account. This new cloud storage account is going to be called, say, Webinar Impossible. Oops. In the backup directories, I'm just going to call it backup. In this case, I'm just not going to put an encryption key, but we recommend putting encryption keys. And then you can put a quota on this, so it stops the backup to the cloud if you want to specify a specific quota for this account. In this case, I'm going to put no quota, so I'll just add this cloud storage account. And what this does is basically create, I'll call it a bucket of storage, or a bucket of measurable storage on the Impossible Cloud storage side that you can back up to, and it's going to be measurable and that type of thing. So in this case, there's already a couple here that have 150 gig, 460 gig out there. And this is where you'd be able to see where that storage is at. So once I have that bucket kind of set up, I want to go to the agents and groups again, and we'll go to that new agent. It's going to give me a little bit of information about this agent. It's Windows 11 machine, and then go to devices. Devices is where we want to basically connect this machine with that cloud storage that we just set up. So we're going to say I have an existing cloud storage account because we just created that. And I want to use that Webinar Impossible that I just created. And then I'll just call it backup cloud storage. And this will get pushed down to that agent, and it'll say, okay, it's already configured on the agent. And then I can actually create the job directly from this portal also. So I can add a job. I'll create a file backup job. Create that. In this case, I'm just going to, I don't know, we'll select the entire C drive. And then we'll go to the Impossible Cloud Storage that we just set up. Then there's a bunch of different settings you can do, but the biggest one that I really care about is retention. So the retention is how long versions of files get stored on the cloud. In this case, I'm going to default it to 30 days, which is fine in this case. What this means is if there's a file that is changed, we're going to keep 30 days worth of versions of that. So the example that I always say is, like, say I have a folder of 1,000 files and 999 of them never change, but one of them changes every day. So what you're going to do, the initial backup, obviously going to back up all 1,000 files, and then every subsequent backup is only going to send the changed parts of that one file that is actually changing. At the end of 30 days, you'll have 30 versions of that one that's changed, and then the one version of the initial backup of all of the others. Some other software out there, is it'll say, okay, these 999 that haven't changed is outside the 30-day window that you set, so I need to back them up again because they're outside that window. We do not. We basically do an incremental forever type backup. which means since those 999 never change again, they're always going to be back there, unless they're deleted or something else has changed on it. But we don't have to back those up again because we know that, hey, these files are already there, and it's still selected for protection within the 30-day window, and that's going to be why we don't have to resend those files, and it's going to continually keep those files. Whereas the one that is changing all the time, it's going to just have like a rolling 30-day window of versions of that file as it goes. So I'll do that, and then I'll just schedule this. I'll schedule it daily. Let's just do like 9 p.m. tonight, Monday through Friday. I'll schedule that. And then it's going to be scheduled on the local agent itself. So tonight at 9 p.m., it'll actually kick off that job to the cloud. Let's go to a couple different ones so I can show you like some job history. Let's look at, say, oh, no, this is a good one. This is one I do a bunch of testing with. So if I go to job history here, it's going to give me a bunch of different jobs that I have set up. I can drill into this and it will say, okay, hey, here's some things that it couldn't back up because I'm doing some weird stuff here, like selecting the SQL data directly instead of through the plugin and some other things. But gives you an idea of, okay, here's what was selected, here's what was actually selected, and then what was actually completed. And obviously these are some pretty big SQL databases, so that's why it didn't actually do those particular ones. The other thing that I wanted to go through, one thing that some people might not know that we have already in the software is the ability to do multi-tier, multi-tenant. So in this case, I have multiple tenants, a customer 1 and customer 2. So if I put my tenants, I'm logged in as the MSP, but I can create users and accounts for those tenants. So say I want to view things just as the customer 1. So I can refresh this. So it'll show me just what that customer 1 tenant has access to. So I can actually set up a user. So say some doctor or some other reseller that you're working with wants to see their data, you could do it this way too. That's pretty much it, what I wanted to cover on that. Josephine, is there anything else that you want me to cover on the portal side?
Yeah, actually, one of the things that we do as well are hybrid backups, right? So would you mind
Yes.
talking a little bit about that and explain what a hybrid backup is and then show how that works?
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. So our hybrid backup is the ability for the client, or in this case, agent, to back up locally, and then after it backs up locally, it'll actually mount the backup and then back up the changes that the cloud doesn't have directly to the cloud. I'll show you how you can do that in a job right here. So I'm just going to create a local device. I'll just call. And in this case, I'm just going to go to the C drive. Obviously, you'd use it to like a NAS, typically is what we see, or you can have a USB drive as long as that drive is always connected because it needs to do that backup locally first before it does to the cloud. So I'll add that. Then we'll go to that same job that I already set up. And instead of going to the cloud device, I wanted to go to the local device. And then I still have that retention set to 30 days here, but for the hybrid backup, I want to enable hybrid backup, and I want it to go to the cloud, in this case, the Impossible Cloud Storage. And then I can say, hey, I want to keep versions of stuff out on the cloud for 60 days. So in just a single, job, I have it going to local backup, and then after that local backup is done, it'll actually mount that local backup and then read from that local backup. So it doesn't have to back things up again, read from it, and then back it up to the cloud. So just a single backup job, and that's all you really need. Now, with the caveat that if you're going to like a USB drive or something like that, you need to make sure that that's there so that the local backup can actually finish, so it can and mount that and go to the cloud. All right, that's anything else I missed, Josephine, that you want me to cover?
We actually got a question now that
Yeah,
might make sense right now.
yeah.
There's a question on how would I connect to NAS?
Mm, good question. So we can go to that same machine. So say I want to go to a NAS. Um, we'll go to local network storage. I'll call it just NAS storage. And you just put the path here. So in this case, I have a bunch of NAS devices here. I could put just like the 68, 68. Um, Basically, you just use whatever path it is, either UNC path or my network. My local network's a little weird because I have a bunch of split stuff. So I tend to go with IP addresses that are static. But if it's just like a UNC name, like you know Buffalo One or something like that, you can certainly put that instead of the IP address. And then if I add that device, it's going to push that down. And in that same job, I could have this, go to that NAS device on that hybrid instead of that local device. And what I kind of want to show you is, let me stop this sharing. I want to share it, what it looks like on the local agent side too. So on the local agent side, I've switched over to a VM here. It's going to show you that job that's already set up here. I can look at that job. It's going to that NAS storage that I have set up. It also is going to already have the hybrid and everything else that I've already done there. And then all the devices that I set up, like that NAS storage, local backup, and the cloud is already there. So you'll be able to see if the user wants to see like logs or something like that, or if they want to do something here, they could, and they'll see everything that they need here. Um, think that covers most of it, Josephine, unless there's any other questions on what I've been going through here.
Yeah, there is actually.
Good.
There's another question on, okay, so I have cloud backup. I have some data on there. How can I delete something if I want to delete directly like data from the cloud storage?
All right. So if you want to delete data directly from the cloud storage, um, there's no way to piecemeal manually delete things. If you go into I'm sorry, I'm going to switch one more time to the other side because it's a little bit easier to show here. So if I go to the cloud storage accounts, if I'm in the right tenant, that would help. There we go. Go to the cloud storage accounts. So say I wanted to delete all of the data for this particular account that's out there. I could go here and delete the data. So just the data. So all the devices are going to stay there, that type of thing. So you could delete all the data there. But say um, on that particular machine, I have a folder that I no longer want there, right? So if I go into this job and say, hey, I no longer want like program data. I don't want the program data anymore. If I save this, what basically happens is the software is smart enough to say, okay, hey, that particular folder is no longer part of the protected data for this job. So in this case, in the end of 30 days, because that is my retention, at the end of 30 days, it'll actually be removed from the cloud or in this case, the local, and then 60 days from the cloud because I have that set up as an archive. but part of the hybrid backup. Now you can change the retention, obviously, to be lower, and then to not have to wait that 30 days and that type of thing. But if you change that retention to say like 1 day or something like that, you need to wait a couple backups for it to basically catch up and do all of that stuff. But it's going to obviously get rid of all the different versions of other files that are out there. So that is one of the trade-offs there. But simply deselecting a folder or file will actually make it so this will be removed from the backup storage or cloud or local when the retention is actually done for that.
Awesome. Thanks, Nate.
Okay.
And then there's a question that I believe kind of goes into that direction. If not,
Mhm.
please submit one more again and help me clarify. But there's a question on what do the colors indicate? And my assumption is that relates to the dashboard and the
Yep.
the
Yep.
the
Yep. Yep. Yep.
beautiful green, red, and yellow. And I think
Yeah.
as part of that, maybe you can talk a little bit as well on, okay, so, you set up the backup once, ideally per customer. So what do I
Yep.
do on a daily basis as an MSP or as an IT reseller? How do I
Yep.
see what's going on?
Yep. Good question. So we have little mouse overs here, so it kind of helps. But yeah, like last backup status will say completed with warnings for yellow, green is completed well, good, and red is failed. So blue is in this case that laptop has been off for quite a while. The last known status for that was that it started. Um, the easiest thing to do, basically. We use our own software internally. Imagine that. So what I do daily is go into usually a dashboard, and then I can say, "Hey, I want to see anything that has failed or completed with warnings," and it will tell me the last backup status of each one of those. And that's the typical thing I'll do. On a daily basis to make sure that all the backups did work. And say if whatever reason I want to look at this particular job, I can go down in here and say, okay, what's going on here? Oh, it can't store two Windows System 32 logs. Okay, that's what it is. That's fine. And then I can kind of see the gory details of that backup of like how many was removed, changed, updated, and all of those things. That answer those questions, Josephine?
I think so. Awesome.
Okay.
And I see there are a bunch of questions coming in
Yeah,
already. So I think we should just jump into the Q&A section. But Nate, I'll
absolutely.
have you keep your share on
I think so.
because
Yeah.
maybe there are some
Yeah.
things that you just want to show right in the
Certainly.
software, right? That's what we are here for. Um, one question is, how can we centrally update Nova Backup for all client systems?
That is a great question. One of the things that we just did on the latest release um, is we've added the ability to, let's see if I have an older one here that makes sense. Okay, this guy. I don't think I've updated anything here. Yeah, I haven't. I don't have this quite set up, but basically, what you can do right now um, on our initial release of this thing is you can actually go and down into an agent, go to updates, and then basically push that update from here. Now, this was just introduced in this the central I'll call it the dashboard updater was just introduced with the latest release. So you really can't use it quite yet because the agents have to be on the latest release to be able to do that. So in the very next release, you're going to be able to push all of the agents from here. Right now, it's just a one by one, but you don't have to wait for it to finish. So you could do it multiple ones in there. And if you have like a bunch of agents, I can kind of show you or talk with you on how to manually do that through the API right now. But we are going to add a option in the UI to manually push that when you want to. We had it so it was automatic updated and it worked for the most part, but we didn't have any control for you guys to push those updates. So that's where we're going with this. So yes, you could do that through the portal on the next version that we release.
Awesome. By the way, Nate, the Q&A is if you click on more, Zoom changed all their setup and they're hiding things because there are a couple longer, more technical
Oh, I see it now.
questions.
Yeah, they changed
Yeah, yeah,
everything.
yeah.
Okay, gotcha, gotcha. Okay, now.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
But we have one more question about a NAS.
Yes.
I have a Satera C200 NAS box that I wanted to back up to a USB drive. How does that work? So backing up a
Oh,
NAS, basically. How do I back up a NAS?
I want to back up to a. Okay, so as long as you can see the data, um, on from the NAS in Nova Backup. So if you do like a Map Network drive or so this is selecting data from a NAS to go to a USB drive or even cloud. Um, there is ways that you could see that UNC data to actually back that up. So we do support it today. We're actually going to make it a little bit easier, both on the portal selection for selecting UNC data, along with the we have a new UI coming out for the local UI that will make it a lot easier to select data for UNC Path or NAS devices also. So yes, that you can do that today. And if you're having issues with that, please just reach out to support because we can do that today. Um, but we're going to make it easier in the very near future with some UI updates. Yeah.
Awesome. There's another question about what about DR sites, disaster recovery sites?
So DR sites are you can talk about DR sites in many different ways. Some people want a DR site where they can just flick a switch and start it up. In that case, I'm gonna recommend utilizing like Hyper-V replication or something like that to replicate to another location. You can also replicate your storage to if you're having NAS storage, you can replicate it to another location also. But if you're talking from an MSP point of view, where hey, I want to um, recover data from a customer to another machine, that type of thing. You can do that today with just installing the agent on another machine at another location and just simply doing a restore. You can do exactly that, from the cloud. And actually, that's one of the things I wanted to talk about on the Impossible Cloud side. Um, when I was doing testing with the Impossible Cloud versus some of the other public cloud providers out there, the Impossible Cloud, both backup and significant, specifically the restore speed, is uh, significantly faster than what I was seeing with other public cloud providers. So that is something that on the Impossible Cloud side that I'm seeing, I what I want to think about it, I think it was almost like 10% speed increase. Don't quote me on that, but it was significant that I did notice it. Yeah. Okay, there we go. I think. Okay, that's
Yeah,
good.
you're going through the a bit more
Yeah, I'm
technical
looking at them
questions,
right
right?
now.
Because I don't know how to
There's quite a few,
summarize
quite a
those.
few of them.
That's
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
While he's reading that, by the way, if you have any more questions, feel free to put them into the Q&A section. We have officially moved into the Q&A section.
Yes, yes.
So feel free to put in the questions just in case we don't get to it because we have just a couple more minutes left. We will reach out to you afterwards as well and make sure that your question is answered. So just because we don't get to it live doesn't mean you won't get an answer. It might just take a little bit, just as a side note. But feel free to put them in so we have them. We'll see who it belongs to, and then yeah. All right,
This
Nate.
is a this is a good question. It took me a little bit to get my head wrapped around it. Okay, so the availability on when the bucket is created on Possible Cloud and that type of thing. So right now, when you create a cloud storage account and that type of thing, it is going to be on one single data center. Now they have redundancy within that data center. Um, but it is on one data center. So in this case, we right now we offer the data centers for Impossible Cloud both in the U.S. and both in Germany. So Germany and the EU, depending on where your data needs to be held. So, but it is on one data center right now. I do not believe, Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, there's not currently a way to do replication between data centers. Is that right?
And that is a coming soon
Yeah, I thought
for
so. When
us.
I talked to Alex, I thought that was coming, but it's not there right now. So it is a single site today, and they are looking at geo-redundant storage for replication. So we'll have to figure out what we want to do on that because obviously, if you're going to copy your data to another one for redundancy, that doubles your storage. So we'll have to figure out what we need to do pricing wise and that type of thing on there. The other good question was on immutability. So there is Impossible Cloud offers S3 object lock, which does immutability, so you can so data cannot be literally cannot be deleted within that immutable period. So say if you set it for like 6 months, even if you have Nova Backup set to remove data within 30 days, it won't be able to delete that. By default, we do not have this set up on the buckets that are happening on Impossible Cloud, but that is something that we can do. So if that's something you want to enable, please reach out to support, and one of my team can work with that to do that. But basically, in general, we're using the immutability within Nova Backup, meaning the retention settings of that, and the fact that you can't access the storage directly to delete it, and it has to go through Nova Backup in order to remove data there. So there could be multiple different layers there. Right now, we're utilizing the Nova Backup one, but we can enable the object lock on the Impossible Cloud side too. So just reach out to support right now. We don't have a way to directly add that in the UI right now.
So software enabled immutability is what
Correct.
we're doing
Yeah,
today,
exactly.
basically.
Yep.
But we can add storage enabled immutability
Yep.
as well, if needed.
Yep.
Awesome. Nate, we have time about for one more question. If you want to take a look at which question you wanna pick here. But again, as I said, feel free to add any other questions to the Q&A section. We will reach out to you afterwards and get that answered.
Yep.
Which one is it, Nate? Which one are you going to pick as our last
So it
question
looks
for
like I
today?
got a couple of them with that uh, object lock stuff. Oh, the MSP test. Oh, the MSP tenant stuff that I was talking about and showed is something new. Um, and there's a little bit of quirks on it. We're actually going to create a new video on it. I don't think we've put anything live yet, right, Josephine, on the tenant stuff? Okay, you're still waiting on me. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So there are some things that I want to go through on the tenant stuff. There's a webinar, what, like a month ago or something like that, or quarterly, yeah, that I did go through it, but there's going to be a specific video on it because there are some quirks on it. So yes, if you have specific questions about tenants and customers and stuff like that right now, please just reach out to support and we can help. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Nate, thank you so much
Yeah.
for answering all of our questions. I know there are a couple of more, again, as I said. We'll get back to you to get those answered. In the meantime, if you have any further questions, if you want to talk about a direct setup, if you want to test what Nate was showing for yourself, feel free to reach out to us and we get you squared away. Nate and Ryan, thank you so much for sharing all the good information and telling us more about Impossible Cloud and Nova Backup.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then to all of you, thank you very much for joining us. We hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and we'll see you soon with another webinar. Thanks.